What's up guys, it's Kat. You ready to learn? Let's get into it. For some reason, I didn't have the add-on my Amazon Prime for BritBox, and I recently did that, and I think that my life has been changed ultimately for the better. I started this show called The Other Bennett Sister, which talks about Mary Bennett, the middle child in Pride and Prejudice. You know, the Bennett sisters, all that, Mr. Darcy, wonderful. But the BBC gave me inspiration for a new video. I want to talk about some beauty standards. Jesus Christ. Beauty standards are such a topic of conversation in general, not even just historically, because beauty standards, honestly, can determine what kind of life that you have, regardless of like your social class, you know what I'm saying? And that's what the Bennett sister touches on. So we're gonna bounce around some places and talk about some beauty standards that really just make me go, what the fuck are y'all doing? Beauty standards have always, like, in my opinion, been catered towards the male gaze. Duh, not even an opinion. It has been catered towards the male gaze. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about right now. And with that being so, if it's catered towards the male gaze and like the principal person who it's supposed to like charm or like be attracted to is a weirdo, the women end up looking kind of crazy. They end up looking kind of crazy. So we're going to talk about Greece, ancient Greece, between the 3rd and the 5th century. The thing that's like, I feel like most commonly misunderstood because of the media is that everybody was just slim, maybe a little thick, but like mainly slim. No. Those Greek men wanted something they can hold on to. Period. Have you ever seen literally any painting of Aphrodite? Any statue, any painting? Does she look like she on Ozempic or a keto diet? No. The ideal female appearance is centered around symmetry. You ever seen those videos where they take like celebrities and they cut half their face and they mirror it back and forth to see like, oh my god, it's so symmetrical. Like who have I seen mostly? I've mostly seen Bella Hadid and Zendaya with that because they have really symmetrical faces. But like, you don't have a lazy eye? Your right eyebrow isn't higher than your left? You want to get married? Me personally, in this regard, I am cooked because I do not have a symmetrical face. No. One side of my lip is higher than the other. What is it? I think it's this eyebrow is higher, but this eyebrow is thicker. It's a lot. It's a lot. So a youthful, fair, and pale complexion was mainly sought after and seen as the most beautiful. And with a lot of other cultures, when I say other cultures, I really just mean most. It also had a political and social class importance and meaning. If you were pale, if you had very, very fair skin, you was inside. You were doing domestic labors, you weren't outside plowing the fields, you weren't outside getting the corn, you weren't outside with the oxen. No, you were not. And when you stepped out, you know, onto the streets walking around, yes, you know, Edward Cullen, we do see you. And we do see that you have money. Why? Because you're reflecting onto my eyes. Because you ain't got no vitamin D. They didn't really like body hair. Like, in terms of an ideal woman, you want it to be like very smooth, very hairless. The whole idea was to appear as young as possible. Right? And appearing to be youthful was like, oh yes, top baddie. Dark hair was mainly sought after because, you know, a lot of the folks, they be brunettes and black hair. Well, not really black hair, just really, really, really deep brunettes. Well, black hair, honestly, my homeboy, he got black. Anyway, and carefully precise, plucked, and groomed eyebrows, which makes sense because the body hair, the thickness, yeah. But at the same time, there were some parts where they were just like, yeah, we love that your eyebrows are done. Yeah, we love that. Can you grow this shit right here real quick? And they actually really liked it. So much so, to an extent, some women would take cosmetics, whatever the fuck it would be, and they would like put little lines to accentuate the fact that their eyebrows would be as, you know, thick enough to come together right there. So remember how I said they really liked being pale? Cosmetics were a big thing. Like, you could be outside or you could just be born with like tan skin and not be naturally pale, but you wouldn't be outside in the fields. That's just your skin tone, right? But at the end of the day, being pale, being fair, that was what it was. That's how you got a man. So, Greek women would often use this compound called cymithion. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but we're gonna put it up on the screen. Yeah. It was a cosmetic that was heavily made with lead carbonate. Putting lead on her face, ladies. It was kind of like the stuff that Elizabeth used on her face. The first one, when she was like, pull that scalp back, shave that hairline, we are white. You know? While they wanted to be pale, they did also want to appear youthful. And for some reason that meant, you know, yeah, you're pale, but you also got rosy ass cheeks. I guess it makes sense to me. It doesn't. But they would use rouge. And rouge was usually just crushed up berries. Just, like the other video, grinding corn of berries. Right? And they would smear it on their cheeks and they would put it on their mouth. They'd be like, yeah, we're priority. Today, one specific cosmetic that was used is called Cinnabar, and Cinnabar was widely used because it gave that bright red that they really like to see. But what was in this? Mercury. Mercury was in this one. So you got lead on your skin, lead is your foundation, and then you got mercury as blush.
Girl, what the fuck is you talking about?
Thank you, Juvia's Palace. Next we're going to move on to medieval Europe and medieval England, and this is where it gets kind of weird because I don't really understand this. I got a lot of questions that I'm gonna ask. Let's start with the first one, the high forehead. Now, as you can see, yeah, maybe I would have had a great chance here. Maybe. But the idea of a high pronounced forehead became the ideal beauty standard. And it's really weird because I don't understand where this came from. I tried finding where it came from and it just popped up. Somebody said, yeah,
I want a bitch with a big forehead.
I'm just like, oh, okay, Kevin Gates. But here's the thing, not everyone can be blessed with a mega mind like I can, you know what I'm saying? So they had to make do with what they had. For the girlies that had smaller forehead and lower hairlines, guess what they did? This is the time period of the henins. You know what a henin is? This is a henin. Okay, so cool. Imagine that. Answer the question. They were in this bitch plucking and shaving their hairlines, okay? Hold on. One of these bad boys, right? One of these bad boys shaves my eyebrows all the time, right? Right? They would take this and just go and just gonna get a man tonight. But then again, at the same time, my cat's first question when it comes to stuff about this. Okay, if you were blonde, this could have been like a pretty easy thing for you because blondes have invisible roots. But if you were a brunette or a ginger or had black hair for some fucking reason, right? And you shave, your roots are black. So in about an hour, when it starts growing back and you got little pluckies, you got pineapple realness lining your original hairline. And imagine your hairline's like down here, right? And you shave it to like back here where mine is. That's like, oh my god. They would shave it or they would pluck it, right? Which I feel like is crazy because once it's went out of style and you had a fucked up hairline, what you gonna do? But then at the same time, if shaving the hairline wasn't enough, you're like, nah, there's not enough space between my eyes and my forehead. Nah. If for some reason you felt like it wasn't enough, the eyebrows were next. They would take the razor or they would take the tweezer or whatever the fuck they would pluck shit back then and just go wow, and now you ain't got no eyebrows. It makes me wonder while saying this out loud, did the 20s take inspiration from this? Because the 20s eyebrows, so many questions I have. I want to know how many people who had thick, lustrous, luxurious eyebrows sacrificed it for the 20s. But this became so popular, it became such a craze. There actually became manuals, cosmetic manuals, detailing how to remove the hair so you look like a baddie ready for a husband and not a lollipop dropped on the floor. Now the question of why this was attractive is really interesting, I guess, because it became the beauty standard to have an elongated face. Like, you want to have a face, I guess, like a banana. But this was something that was only really popular amongst, like, the elite. It's not like you're walking down the street trying to get a loaf of bread or, like, a grape or some shit like that, and you hear a nearby conversation.
Yeah, Mary shaves her whole body head to toe. She ain't got no hairline no more. She finna get married tomorrow.
Like, no, it wasn't like that. Like, if you were rich enough to realize this was what men wanted, and it was rich, weird men, because why am I plucking my forehead and you're getting excited? The high forehead did eventually, like, you know, cease in its popularity just for a little bit because then Elizabeth came through and was like, yeah, push that bitch back again. Yeah, Regency England, which is when the Bennet sister is set in, is a little bit different. This is where we get the era where we are losing, oh my god, we are losing the skinty waists and the big old dresses. This is the era of dress where it's more focused on having a smooth and elegant silhouette and more natural face. Here we have the dresses where the cinch is right under the bust and the rest of the gown is just straight down. Everyone looks like a fucking Roman column right now. And it's not like they were saying, oh yes, if you're skinny you're gonna look amazing, you're gonna be hot. No. Everything was all about elegance and refinement, and they wanted to look like statues moving with absolute grace. It was kind of weird, in my opinion, because also with the men, it was also this era where they had the collars that were like up to here, tied, and they just stayed up, and it was just like, hello, would you like to get married? Can you put your neck down, please? But at the same time, like I said, while corsets were no longer in fashion, that does not mean they weren't worn. They were still worn, but mainly the nobility, you know, they wanted to wear I'm a Roman column. What you gonna do about it? And at the same time, with the cinch being right below the bust, it's still top titty. We still have top titty. Instead of wearing heavy cosmetics and makeup routines and stuff like that, it was more so natural cosmetics. So if you had a blemish, maybe there was like a cream or something that would match your skin tone, you'd put it on that whole, and then leave. And that was what you had on for the entire day. Maybe some rouge here, but like it wasn't a lot of stuff going on. What really would separate you from the crowd was either the designs that you had on your dress, or more importantly really, your hairstyles. We kind of see this in Bridgerton, which is also kind of set in this time period and has a style of dress. The character Cressida Cowper, her hair being in all the different styles does make her stick out, but like we saw in, what was that, the second season, someone told her, your hair is so damn big, yeah, you stick out, but hoes don't want to be around you. They don't want to get hit. It was common to have such illustrious hairstyles, but the ideal was to look restrained and youthful. Everything is about feeling youthful and young. What if you 50? One more English era, then we're gonna leave England. The Victorian era. Alright, listen, Nosferatu. So I'm gonna touch on the mid-Victorian and the late Victorian because they do kind of coincide with each other, but the late Victorian, it's a lot going on right now. So the mid-Victorian era, also called the crinoline era, between 1855 and 1869 was definitely different from the Regency because we were introduced to steel hoop skirts. Technically it's a cage, because if you've seen one, I'll put a picture up. It looks like a fucking cage, but I'm gonna call it a skirt. These crinoline skirts, they allowed the women to have the skinty waist once again and have the big dresses, because before it was reliant on how many petticoats you want to put on underneath the dressing. And honestly, it'd be hot. It'd be hot. That's a lot of weight. I don't want to do all that. So the women that had the big skirts and you were just like, God damn, look at her. Yeah, she looked good. Yeah, she looked good. But at the end of the night, she's a dead body. She got her entire year's worth of a leg workout. Just walking in the hall. By the mid-1860s, these skirts had gained such popularity they were made to be bigger and bigger and bigger, and they could get up to about 6 feet. Like, you would put it on, you got this itty bitty waist, and then it's just 6 feet of just fabric. How are you making your way around town, miss? Now we have the late Victorian stage, the 1870s to 1890s, the Gilded Age, if you will. Great show, go watch. So this is the era in which the huge skirt and the huge, 6 feet bullshit moved from the sides
all the way to the back.
And here we have the entrance of Victorian BBLs. Yeah, this silhouette was called the bustle, and essentially what this was, you had the teeny tiny waist still. Everything in the front was straight down. It was the titties, right? And there's everything underneath, the cinch at the waist, but then in the front, it was just straight down material. But then you turn around, and you just got like the Polar Express of a back end. In the 70s and the 80s, it stayed a popular silhouette, but then it evolved through different accessories. It was still the big backside, Mrs. Incredible build, but then you had the sleeves to match. You just had a lot of fabric going on. And I guess this is like, when you have both this stuff together, it does highlight how rich you were, because that's a lot of fabric. That's a lot of fabric. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of time. You got 6 outfits like this? Now, the Victorian waist is where we really get the skinny waist queens, because at this point, mechanics had figured out a way to take the initial corset that had been all throughout, culture as a whole, and make it a little tighter. Even though it was already tight to where ribs, we don't know her. Now it's just like, I don't even know what a rib is. Is that a vowel? I'm gonna show you some extreme cases of a Victorian waist, because these people, I don't even know if it was just like, I really enjoy the tightness of this, so I'm gonna make it as tight as I can, because I get that, you know what I'm saying? I understand that. Or it was just like, free will, I wanna die. Now in terms of the face, so in Victorian England, the main disease you could catch really wasn't plague for real anymore. Now it was just consumption, which is like another form of tuberculosis. When you had consumption, you were coughing all the time, but then also with that, you were sickly, like deathly pale. Not pale in a cute way, not like in an acute Irish princess way. No, like you were. But with this idea, the beauty standard was still to be as pale as possible, and people often tried to look at consumption victims and people who had consumption and be like, yeah, I want to look like that. But like, what are you talking about? You want to look ghostly pale, but at the same time, you still gotta look delicate. You still gotta look youthful. I don't want to see a single blemish. And they had makeup for it, but it was like, you know, natural glam. I'm wearing makeup, but you can't tell I'm wearing makeup. It's like getting a concealer that matches your skin tone absolutely perfectly on days when you don't want to wear makeup. I do that all the time. I always find it so weird how, like, being delicate is often something just here. Like, why would you want to be with somebody that looks like if the wind blew too hard, they're gonna just shatter into 1,000 pieces? I don't understand this. But with women at this time period understanding that if they don't look delicate, they're gonna be looked like they're a man or a behemoth. Measures were taken, and I think this is so stupid because they would take makeup, blue makeup, and they would paint veins on their hands to insinuate they're so skinty, they're so delicate, their skin is so translucent. You can see their veins. And if you had that in the least spaces, Patty. If I was a man and I'm trying to talk to a girl and I grab her hand to be like, you know, you are so beautiful, and I'm rubbing my thumb on top of her hand like this, and I look down and her veins are smearing. Witchcraft. This one's a bit different because I feel like it wouldn't be fair to say it's a standard because it's different depending on where you are, but it's like a culture more so than a standard. So we're gonna call this one a culture. Yoruba culture! Nigeria is a country I definitely want to go to. Literally just for the food. Just for the food. The culture, the history, duh. But I really just want to sit there and just eat for like 4 days straight and just see what happens. I want to start off with hair because hair is just, oh my gosh. The different way in which I've seen just Nigerian American style their hair is very beautiful. Because it's so intricate, it's so detailed, it's so different. And then you look at photos from people who are in Nigeria, born and raised, stuff like that, who live there, who are in the culture, in the different tribes and stuff like that every single day. And it's like, wow. How your fingers move like that. Different hairstyles mean different things. Hairstyles can represent how old you are, if you're unmarried, if you are married. They have different hairstyles for different occasions. Funerals, weddings, parties. They have specific hairstyles for weddings, which I find very, very cute. And even displaying your social position in your community. A new hairstyle for a new occasion. Yes, yes. And I sit there and I wonder like how much time it takes, right? So I go on my phone and I look up how much time it takes. I watched this woman get her hair done in the most crazy style I've ever seen in my fucking life. And not even in a bad way. I was just like, wow. Damn. That woman was done in like 3 hours. Boho braids takes me 10. In certain communities, when it comes to mourning, like let's say you're a woman and your husband passes away, right? It's expected of you in some communities to undo your braids and have your hair just be out and about while you're in your period of mourning. Or, in some cases, even shave your head to disconnect from the deceased person as a whole. That's probably really like spiritually freeing and emotionally like freeing. I understand. That makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about beads. I love beads. So beads could be worn on either your waist, your wrist, or your neck, anywhere you really want it. And they could symbolize a lot of different things. Beads could be placed on a young girl's waist to watch and monitor her progression as she matures into a young woman. It could be used aesthetically, this matches my outfit. Younger women could also wear these beads around their wrist or their neck or their waist during festivals, transitioning them into womanhood as a celebration. They could be wearing the same beads from the time they were a child all the way until they're an old lady. And honestly, yes, I wish. I should, but I wish. Beads were also historically used during marriage ceremonies to symbolize, how much money a family had, showing off how wealthy you were. Daughters of chiefs and kings would wear large quantities of valuable beads all around their bodies. You know how when you go to Hawaii sometimes, not even. You know how that one video of that man, I forget who it was a government official, he like went to Hawaii and everyone kept giving him layers to the point where he was like covered from like here to here in just complete flowers. Not like that with beads, but like in that kind of way. So if you were at a wedding back then and you saw a woman walking into a wedding being the bride covered head to toe in beads, it's not like, damn, look at how much noise she's making. It's symbolizing, this is where my family comes from. We got the money on to have all these beads. It was also often that beads are tied to a position of leadership within a community. Kings were known by their crowns, chiefs were known by their beads. Should a chief lose their position of being chief, they would lose the right to wear the beads and a titled office as a whole. This one is my favorite because I've always found it super interesting since I was a little girl. Body modifications. Body modifications have always been really interesting to me, and like as I've grown up hearing about it from other people, researching it on my own out of curiosity, I've seen how like people are about it, and I'm just like, What did I do with you? Mainly it's called scarification, but I feel like scarification is kind of a label to give it, so I'm gonna call it body modification. So among communities, it's usually established when they're like really young what kind of modifications they'll be, and it's done when they're young, so it stays with them their entire life. A lot of the time, scarification represented a social identity or citizenship from what community you were from, which when it came down to political, like, you know, conflicts, it really, you couldn't really infiltrate anybody's community if you have modification that shows, wait a second,
You from over there.
like I said before, it could signify what lineage you're from. It could also signify if you were the leader, if you were the leader's right hand, if you're his wife, etc., etc. But also at the same time, you could create the body modifications and rub certain substances inside the cuts before they heal as a way of medicinal practice. I feel like that would hurt, but then again, if you're like dying or something, or like coughing your lung out, I guess you wouldn't really care about that, but What I find so cool about like the differences between all of these different kind of standards, or like I said with the last one, cultures, is the difference between all of them and the last one actually. Because the other ones signify, okay, how can I look as beautiful as possible? How can I look as pale as possible? How can I look as skinty and then milk as possible? Whereas in the last one with Yoruba culture, it's signifying who you are. How you look signifies who you are. It tells the story of who you are before you even open your damn mouth. I find that really cool. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!